Alright everyone, welcome to the best uses and analysis that I consider, in my opinion, for the new colorless dual infantry skill. So this one is quite revolutionary, I would say, for the meta. We already thought that green dual infantry and red dual flyer could change some things around, but no, colorless dual infantry is actually one of the most revolutionary, I would say, for the meta, and I'm going to show you why in this video for sure. So first of all, of course, as always, my Twitch friends, you can say hello to those on YouTube, and on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment below and saying hello to Twitch. I always encourage you guys over on YouTube to come join the stream so you can see this live, as always. But nonetheless, this particular video will look at the best case scenarios for a couple of units that will use colorless dual infantry in the current arena meta, which is based upon supporting your bonus unit and securing as many kills as possible. On top of that, I'm going to make sure that it is oriented towards F2P players or low spenders, maybe whether that's orbs or not. So don't expect to see any crazy rally pluses or anything that's really difficult to get. Most of the stuff I show you will be easily obtainable in the 3 and 4 star pool, minus colorless dual infantry, of course. And I'm going to look at 3 and 4 star units, none of the 5 stars exclusives. And by the way, there are a couple of them that really utilize it well, like Dancing Olivia or Jafar, just to say it clearly, but you won't see them in this video. Okay, so let's get started. What is colorless dual infantry? Colorless dual infantry, and just like all the other infantry, dual skills rather, that are currently in the game, makes it so a unit counts as 170 BST. What this means is that essentially a unit like Hawkeye using green dual infantry scores as much as a plus speed Sheena. This is pretty awesome if Hawkeye was your favorite character and you couldn't use him in arena due to how restrictive the arena scoring system was. The A skill itself is actually not used for supporting your bonus units. That's usually left in the B, C, and seal slots. The A skill taking up a dual skill means that it is unrestricted and you can actually continue to support the bonus units using your favorite units. So that's pretty cool. Additionally, units that use preference weapons, so legendary weapons, score a little bit higher due to the way the SP system works. Keep in mind during this video that healers do score less than other units that use colorless dual infantry because they do not have a 500 SP special yet, and they just generally don't score as much beyond that. That's a big one though, I think. Okay, so let's get started. First up on my list of units to showcase using colorless dual infantry will be my boy Osama on the left. I actually don't like Osama very much, to be honest with you guys, but I must recognize that he is indeed one of the best users of colorless dual infantry, and there's many reasons for that. At least he's voiced by Matt Mercer, so that's definitely it. But I would definitely consider Osama to be one of the better users of this if you wanted to go into arena supporting your bonus units. Not only does he bring healing, but of course his literally the lowest attack in the game works the advantage here so he doesn't secure kills. You never have to worry about that. And due to the advantage of Pain Staff, which as you can see on the left over there, you'll make it so he can still do good chip damage to lower things. Now, you can consider different IVs on Osama, and you don't necessarily have to use Pain depending on what your ranking is. Gravity with a reposition, for instance, is still some very good utility. Witchy Wand is also pretty good, so you don't have to use Guard. But generally speaking, the build you see on the left there is optimal scoring. Guard works perfectly with how healers score, so you can afford to use one 200 SP skill. And I've chosen to give him a plus HP boon there with minus attack because Panic Ploy works on him. 55 HP is very good generally after one round of combat, and just a lot of units in general just don't really hit that unless they're like armors or just really stacked with blessings and such. So he's one of the better units to actually use Panic Ploy, and this means you can actually free up the bonus unit itself from not having to use Panic Ploy. Usually when I use a bonus unit it reaches 60 plus 70 HP, it'd be much better for it to use close defense, for instance, or distant defense, or heavy blade, flashing blade. All these other options is better than having to use Panic Ploy for support, whereas giving it to Osama. So the reason I use guard, and this is very important on healers. Another option, of course, could be Wings of Mercy if you want mobility, but guard, and you'll see this consistent through the healers I show, is because when you want to hit something for 0, or just pain it, you don't want to charge up their special, especially into steady breath users or anyone else like that. Just charging their specials is certain death in a lot of cases, you know? Like charging Black Luna on Zelgius, not a good thing, especially if your bonus unit is green. And yeah, you just don't want to do that. So guard is definitely good in one of these those type of situations. Anyways, that's Osama, and I highly recommend him, especially as a new player, and you think, or even a long time player, and you have those Osama copies. He's going to be by far probably the best utility here. Yes, minus attack does lower the healing he does, but nonetheless, you can use Recover Plus instead of Martyr if you're worried about that. But because he's able to actually take hits on the enemy phase, that's a big one, okay? And I want to make sure that's recognized. Tanky healers like Osama, Lisa, for instance, will shine here because they can take hits. And if you run rallies, which you should, double rallies instead of repositions or drawbacks, it means you pain, and then your unit is likely in danger. So you got to make sure that they have some sort of enemy phase bulk. Some of the healers are exceptionally squishy, and those ones are better off using positional skills with. So maybe you got legendary Lucina instead, but generally speaking, being able to take a hit is very important for a healer. Anyways, moving on. Oh boy, didn't think I'd see the day, but this guy is actually one of the best counters to himself. He is literally one of the best counters to himself. I mean, he's running double ploys because he has one of the highest res, if not the highest res in the game. So it's insane. Like, again, you run the whole pain guard thing. You don't have to use pain. You could use gravity. You could use other stuff. You don't have to use pain, but I just like pain because it softens up units. But he's got the highest, literally one of the highest res in the game. So again, you run minus attack, you run plus res, and you know, you just give him those ploys, and he pretty much ploys everything in the game. Bar units maybe using Fortress Res or some weird shenanigans like that. And there you go. You have the best ployer in the game. You have pain, you have healing, and you're good to go. Amazing utility right there. Also, he's got a good HP stat. He doesn't have good speed, but due to the high HP, and at least it's not terrible defense like Loki or Lucius, for instance. That's why he likely could end up taking a hit here. The ploys are interchangeable. You could use something like Defense Ploy or Res Ploy, depending on your bonus unit. Okay, and now a slightly more aggressive version than the first two that I showed, still very good, and honestly this is the one I would recommend if you're thinking of arena defense team. Generally you shouldn't build a unit for arena defense teams, but he's still going to be useful even beyond that and in other modes besides arena, especially if you don't use Colorless Duel Infantry and maybe give him like a bond skill instead or attack speed push or something far more higher investment. But generally speaking, this doesn't score the most. It could if you swapped out the seal though to drive defense or something else instead, but it's still very good and very scary to deal with. So Lucius is one of the fastest. He's not actually super fast, but he's pretty good speed. He's at 30 speed, 33 with a boon, and then 37 up with 10 merges. But more importantly, his attack stat is very good, and his HP and res stat are also respectable. So you can make him into using ploys if you chose the right IV, or you could make him, you know, do some damage with Wrathful Dazzle, for instance. So Wrathful's, you know, it's more expensive, but if you wanted to choose a healer for that, he's gonna be one of the best. And his speed makes it so it's very difficult to kill him on enemy phase. Or even, like I said, arena defense teams, you pretty much would have to use a brave weapon or a bold fighter armor to kill him, because he's got 63 physical bulk and he's got crazy high resistance. Like, I dropped res on this example here, but you don't have to drop res. But even with dropping res, he's 36 res, which is still pretty good. But for example, if you keep his bulk that good due to his high HP and the dual skill working like that, you get a really offensive healer. He might get some kills this time, but you know, this is one of those better options for that. I want to give a shout out to Maria as well, because she's also exceptionally fast. She just doesn't have the res and a lower attack, unfortunately. So, you know, when you're picking a healer, honestly, choose your favorite if you don't really know like what to choose here, or whatever you have the most copies of, because they all work really well. I don't think there's any bad healers per se. Maybe the Cheesius, maybe. Okay, and now that's my take on the healers using Colorless Duel. You're still going to have some respectably much higher scoring Colorless Duel infantry units, so we're going to start with what I would consider probably the biggest loser of the batch from the 3 and 4 star pool. He's not terrible though, and I'll tell you why. So he's got decent speed to be using the sweet Poison Strike build, as I've shown a couple of times, especially with Soren or Merrick, for instance. But more importantly, his Parthia does make it so he takes less damage from range. And that's kind of important to consider. Just like Riss having insanely high res before, George is going to be able to take hits from enemy range units, which will become more prominent in the arena meta. So if you're worried about enemy healers, well, George isn't really the one you want to be taking those with. But more importantly, like Riss, 43 res, you know, enemy healers giving you a hard time, put Riz in front. But George isn't too bad for that. He's going to be able to enemy phase those range units and likely not kill, I hope. He probably won't, but he'll reduce the damage a lot and then able to hit into some of those with Water Sweep Poison Strike or the dragons if they give you trouble. Some of those 180 BST fearful dragons. Well, he's got the speed to make it work. Give him a rally speed or a drive speed, maybe ally support, and he can even hit Legendary Tiki, no problem, Poison Striker up and such. So this is already pretty good. Remember, he's colorless, so that works to your advantage because he will be consistent throughout the colors in the sort of damage output he does. Okay, and this one is far more, it's harder to pick up, Soth over here. He's hard to pick up because he's still in the 4 and 5 star pool, but if you do have him, he's also gonna be one of the bigger winners from this because Peshkats is amazing, okay? You lower the whole enemy defense team stats and buff up your own team stats, but more importantly, buffing up your bonus unit if possible. Still gonna work really well. So again, plus speed, minus HP, Poison Strike, Water Sweep, gonna work splendid. He's got 40 speed and he's got decent bulk to actually take an enemy phase hit, which is one thing you definitely have to consider with 44 HP. And then with Peshkat's effect, you're pretty much going over 68 bulk in most cases, and he'll be fine to do something like that. Of course, hitting into a unit and then putting your bonus unit like in front of him is the ideal play there. But dagger users finally becoming far more relevant than they were maybe a year ago, and I'm happy to see somebody like Soth doing it. Okay. And my final unit that I want to showcase out of the 3 and 4 star pool is Felicia. So, just like Soth, she's a dagger unit, and dagger units are really good because they debuff enemies. But one thing that Felicia does that Soth cannot is run ploys or bait out those pesky healers that you're going to start running into. So, what you do here is pretty much bump up her res using a res refine Felicia's plate. You don't need to special refine it because that just encourages her getting kills. You don't really want that. And she's already got good speed without having to bump up the speed, and it's okay to pump up her attack if needed. You could even choose to bump up her defense if you're worried about maybe some dragons or maybe some distant counter units hitting you back. There's some good flexible IV choices, but personally, attack is okay because her attack is already super low, so you're not likely to kill, and she's not going to double because you're using Water Sweep. And remember, the daggers debuff defense and res, so that's why something like attack ploy and speed ploy work really well as well, because you're debuffing the offensive stats and the defensive stats of Felicia, but she also has utility on enemy phasing, maybe some healers that might give you some trouble. So that's pretty much going to cover what I think are your best budget options in the 3 and 4 star pool for Carlos Duel Infantry. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, there are still some really good units that are in the 5 star exclusive pool, but remember, this is with the end game in mind, and it's very difficult to pick up some 5 star plus 10s if they're exclusive to the 5 star pool. So honorable mentions, Jafar, Loki for instance, because of her staff. Then you have Dancing Olivia because she's a dancer. Yeah, that pretty much covers it, I would say. Those are the ones that pop out to me right away. But these are the best you can do. Yes, Innis, of course. Innis is the last one. We covered him with his Refine. His Refine made him a lot better. Now you can dump Carlos Duel Infantry on him, and Innis is going to be one of those better choices. So yeah, that pretty much covers Carlos Duel Infantry. Look forward to a video like this when we do get more duel skills out, and I'll help you guys determine what are some best case scenarios for how you can make your favorite units shine in the especially 3 and 4 star pool. So thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy the content, subscribe as always, and love you guys. See you guys in the next video. Peace.